How's it going, everybody? Yes, I am finally back. It has been 2 weeks now. Now, here's the thing. When I started this channel, one of the goals I set out to accomplish was never missing an upload, always having a video out every single Monday. I really wanted to be consistent because I think that is a huge part of a successful channel, and I didn't want all my audience to have to miss any uploads. Now, like I said, it's been 2 weeks. I know that's a big break, but I do have a reasonable excuse. My wife and I actually just welcomed a new baby into the world. I had a little baby girl. So yeah, that is why I've been gone for the last 2 weeks. I have been living the parent life. But without further ado, we are now back. I will be back every Monday now, moving forward, now that I've had a little bit of time under my belt with the newborn and kind of working that schedule and dealing with the sleep thing, as you parents will know, that is quite difficult to navigate. But this is my second one, so I feel like I'm doing a little bit better this time. Just wanted to give you that little update before we get into today's video, but today we're gonna talk about 10 discs that I wish I would have bought sooner. Now, I'm making this list for a specific reason. Basically, these 10 discs are discs that I've only had in my bag not necessarily recently, but it took me, I've been playing disc golf for around 10 years. So these are discs that entered my bag years into the game, you know, discs that I discovered later along the line. And these are discs that I wish I would have known about sooner. Some of these are less popular molds. Some of them are a little bit more known, but in any case, I'm trying to get them in front of you. So if you haven't discovered them yet, this is your chance. I'll go through each disc explaining them, why I wish I would have known about them sooner, and I'll show you some shots thrown with them so that you can look through them and decide if there's any that you want to check out. Next week, I'll be back to making content out in the field playing disc golf. Like I said, with the whole baby thing, it's been a little hard to get out of the house, but I think this will be a fun piece of content and hopefully you enjoy it. I'm super glad to be back making videos, and I'm really excited to push out more content for you guys. All right, starting in at number 1 on the list, and these are in no particular order, is the DGA Hurricane. Now, this disc is on this list for a couple reasons. I would definitely describe this as one of the more underrated molds on here. This is one that isn't super popular just because DGA itself as a brand isn't super popular. So that's one of the reasons it's on here. But I think this disc has something to offer that a lot of discs don't, at least the popular ones amongst other manufacturers. And that is a more forgiving max distance driver. Now, like I'll give the disclaimer, some of these discs are still advanced player discs. Some of them are more beginner friendly, I would say. A lot of them are beginner friendly, but like I'll mention the DGA Hurricane, this is not for your beginner player. Not every disc on this list is just disc I wish I would have had as a beginner. It's more so discs that as I got better at disc golf, I wish I knew about. So that doesn't mean this is a beginner list. So the Hurricane kind of falls into that category because you do need to be able to throw, you know, at least 300 feet to get usage out of it, but it does its best when you can get it 300, when you have that 350 foot and above power. That's where you can get your best out of the Hurricane. And the reason this disc is so special is for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's incredibly comfortable in the hand. I've got two here. This is in the Pro line, kind of an older run that I really like, and this is one of the newer Tour series. I guess this would be considered kind of their SP line, which is more of the see-through kind of durable plastic, but it's incredibly comfortable in the hands. It's a bit unique in the sense that a lot of drivers that have a little bit of flip up to them and are faster are really narrow. This one has enough room to get my fingers under, which I really like because that's something I'm super particular about. And brand new out of the box, what you're gonna get with a Hurricane is just a beautiful hyzer flip flight. Just a little bit of hyzer flip, not a ton, just a little bit of push up the flat, and they just go super, super far. The first thing I noticed when throwing this disc was, wow, I am getting so much distance for the amount of effort I'm putting into it. They glide a ton. As you beat them in, they just become better and better. This one's been worn in a bit. It holds its stability. They don't just become rollers, but you can start to give them more and more hyzer, get more turn and fuller flights out of them. And by the time you get them seasoned in like this, they are just incredible. I discovered this disc because they were really popular, obviously amongst the DGA pros. I mean, this is the main one they would throw. So this was kind of a niche disc. You know, DGA has some pretty notable pros now, but back in the day they didn't. There were guys like Peter McBride and Shasta Chris that threw the Hurricane, and that's kind of how I discovered it. So yeah, if you're looking for a distance driver, if you've kind of just been searching around, you know, the vast galaxy of distance drivers that there's out there, and you're kind of landing on the popular molds like your Destroyers and your Forces, there's nothing wrong with those, but you might want to try out the Hurricane because I think it offers something different, both as in hand feel and flight. I think it's very unique, and it is an incredible disc. It is super, super effective on the course. All right, number 2 on the list, this is another very underrated mold, and that is the Drone from Discraft. Now, I would categorize this as being overshadowed, and I will say, I found the Drone, funny enough, pretty early into my disc golf career. I actually bought a first run Z drone very quickly, like within a couple years of playing. but I never really gave it a really good chance. And I didn't come back to the disc until just a few years ago, probably, when this Z Swirl run came out for Ledgestone. The reason the drone gets overlooked is because of the zone in the Discraft lineup, right? One of the best approach discs out there. It's got that overstable finish, and people loop the drone into that category, but the problem is it's a different disc. I would actually say this is closer to the Malta, but more what people want the Malta to be. It pushes further than a zone, but it still has a nice reliable fade at the end, but not quite as much fade. It more fades forward instead of biting left like a zone might. So I think this is a great disc. Even if you do carry a zone, you can layer this in and have something faster that goes a little further, but it's still got enough torque resistance. You can also throw really nice forehands with this disc. That's something that a lot of people are looking for. I know so many people that throw a Discraft bag struggle looking for that overstable mid-range. They try to fill it in with an overstable buzz. Some people go to the WASP, which I think is a good option, and we'll maybe get to that one later. But the drone here is just an incredible disc. I think more people need to try it. I have it in ESP, Crystal, and this Z Swirl. I've thrown them all, and it's just a phenomenal flight. I really like throwing flex shots with these. Shots that have a long, nice S, but come back at the end. It's very reliable. And you can just wear these in, and they stay overstable at the end, but they get straighter and straighter. But it's just a phenomenal disc, and I think so many people overlook it just because of the strengths in that Discraft mid-range lineup. And like I said, when the Malta first came out, people, I think, wanted this disc. They wanted something that pushed straight, but had a nice overstable finish at the end, and that is what the drone is. I think this disc already existed. It's really comfortable in my hand. It has a beadless design, but a little bit of depth to it, which makes it feel nice and sturdy and comfortable in the hand. And yeah, the Z Drone, I would try it in any plastic really, but the Z Swirl run was my favorite. These Crystal Presnell ones are also nice, but really any run of them is a tremendous disc. All right, this next disc should come as no surprise because it is my signature disc this year, but that is the Supra from Finish Line Discs. So this isn't just some kind of promotion. I already ran the sale on these. They're all sold out now. So I actually do want to talk about this. Like, the reason I ran this as a signature disc is because I like it so much. This is a disc that, you know, Finish Line didn't ask me to put this in my bag. I just kind of discovered it on my own and threw it in there. And the reason this disc is so special for me is because I historically have not been a good hyzer flip player. I really struggle with putting the disc on hyzer, getting it to stand up. My release is wonky with it. It's just not a strength of my game. And the Supra, I actually put in my bag when my flippiest rock that I had hit a tree and exploded. And I needed something really understable quick. I needed like that quick fix. And what I decided to go with was the Supra, almost just as a placeholder. I kind of just threw it in there thinking I'd replace it, and I never did. To this day, I still have that same Supra in my bag. Now, what I'll say about the Supra is these clear runs that came with my signature on my signature disc, we ran both a clear run here and we did the colored runs. There's like assorted colors, but the clear ones are a little bit more stable. These are like hyzer flip to flat, but the typical Supra that the multicolored run was, and that a lot of times you'll buy stock, are very flippy, brand new. You can give them a ton of hyzer, they'll go all the way up and over. And that effortless hyzer flip flight is something I really love, that you could get straight out of the box. I know a lot of people are looking for an out-of-the-box flight that gives you something like that, a nice glidey hyzer flip, and that's what the Supra does. It's just tremendous in the woods. You can shape so many different lines with it based on how much power you give the disc. It is awesome at finding and hitting those gaps. I've just loved the Supra. It's really changed the way I look at shots in the woods because now I have that hyzer flip shot in my game, whereas before I didn't. So I would definitely check out the Supra from Finish Line. All right, this next disc is one that is very special to me now, and that is the Slammer from Dynamic Discs. Now, a lot of you, if you see me play disc golf, know that the Slammer is like a prized disc in my bag. I had one in my bag for like over a year, and then Robbie C threw it into a river. Thanks, Robbie C. But since then, I put another one in my bag that I've had for probably a year and a half. I lost it in a river in Idaho, and some guy went and found it and mailed it back to me. So I have a very sentimental attachment to the Slammer, but it's in my bag for a reason. It's not just some kind of gimmick and fun bit that I do. I actually really love this disc. And the funny thing about it is, when I mention the Slammer, you might be thinking about the one that Ricky Wysocki throws. Hold on, I think I have one. Here we go. So this is what you might be thinking about. These are the Saki Bomb Slammers. These came out just a year or two ago. And these are much more slow and overstable. This is a different disc. The Slammer I'm talking about, up until recently, was discontinued. They haven't run these in a while, but now they are. They just brought it back to life, which was awesome. I actually was begging the Discmania CEO Dynamic Disc CEO, Jeremy Rusko, to bring them back kind of as a joke, but then they did. I don't think it was completely up to me, but hey, it couldn't have hurt. And what I love this disc for and why I put it in my bag is it was really to improve my touch forehand upshots. I don't really throw it backhand very often at all. I mostly throw it forehand. I like the thumb track design on the disc. I think it sits comfortable. But what's great about it is these discs pretty quickly, I throw them in a baseline plastic because that's really what they make them in these days. And they quickly beat into a disc that you can throw hard and flat and they go really straight without dumping off, but they still have that torque resistance. And that's kind of rare to find. You know, a zone, unless you beat it in really, really heavily, is still gonna maintain a pretty sharp fade at the end, even once you power them straight. The slammer, you can give just slight anhyzer or throw dead straight forehand. And once they're beat in a little bit, they'll just go dead straight. They won't dump super hard and they'll kind of just drop at the end. You can really float them in. They're a slow disc. They're easy to control into a green. I just found them such a great tool when throwing forehand upshots. I love throwing this disc on anhyzer. Anytime I have a chance to chip out and throw an anhyzer shot with a slammer, I know I'm going to get close to the basket. They're great for running the basket and staying close by. This disc has seriously transformed the way I throw forehand approaches. It used to be part of my game that I was a little bit nervy about, something I didn't completely trust, but now with the slammer, I feel very confident in that part of my game, and it's become one of my favorite discs. And like I said, they've brought it back. It's now being run again by Dynamics, so you can check one out for yourself. But I could not recommend the slammer enough. It is so useful out on the course. It is a get out of jail free card. It is the go-to for me inside of 200 feet when I have a forehand approach. And I think it is very underrated because of how much people are they loop it into the conversation with your pigs and your zones, but it's a different disc than that. It really is. Heck, you can even throw it in combo with the Saki Bomb Slammer and you have a really good 1-2 punch. This next disc is a great one and a disc that I can't believe I didn't know about sooner because of how insane it is, and I still don't know how people aren't talking about this disc more, and that is the Raider from Dynamic Disc. Another Dynamic Disc here. The Raider is so good. I discovered this disc in 2020 or early 2021 when I joined Team Dynamic for that year, and this was one of the discs that I just decided to throw into my bag to try out. I've got a bunch of them that I've toyed around with, but I fell in love with this disc right away. And the reason is kind of similar to the Hurricane. Straight away, you get just like a nice straight flight with a little fade at the end, but these discs, they do something special once you beat them in. The disc that I have had in my bag the longest, I think at this point, is an orange hybrid Raider. And the reason it's so special is people knock Trilogy Plastic a lot because they think it beats in really quick. And I would have to agree, I think it does season quickly. But what they don't realize is once it gets to a certain point, it stays there really for a long time. This Raider I have in my bag, I put in there and beat into a hyzer flip to turn disc. And it got there pretty quickly, but it's flown the same for like over a year, maybe 2 years. It really has. So once you get them to that sweet spot, these discs turn, they go from a phenomenal straight to fade disc, or a really good forehand disc, very comfortable. They turn into just this insane hyzer flip disc. They're also a comfortable 13 speed. You can get a ton of distance out of these. They offer a bunch of plastics. I think the Fusion ones feel great. Like I said, I have a hybrid one if you can get your hand on that. The Lucid ones are fine too. I think they're a little bit more flippy, but it just is such a comfortable disc in the hand. I think a lot of 13 speeds feel really awkward in the hand, especially if you don't have huge hands. My hands are decent size, but they're not massive, and this one sits great. And I also really love the way it feels in my forehand grip. It's got plenty of depth to get your fingers underneath the rim. And it's a forgiving flight, it really is. You can shape them so much. I've had these discs in my bag for 3 years now, and I will not go back. And I wish I would have known about them when I started playing disc golf, because it's become probably my, like, it's definitely like a top 2 or 3 favorite distance driver for me in disc golf. It really is. And something that I've only known about for a couple years. I cannot recommend the Raider enough. Another distance driver along with that Hurricane I mentioned that you just have to try out if you haven't. It feels just at home when it sits in my hand. All right, we're about halfway in, but we've still got some incredible discs, so don't go anywhere yet. Also, if you have not liked and subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate you doing that. It really helps the video perform, especially considering I've been gone for 2 weeks. So you would go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you're not. Also, leave a comment down below if any of these discs you agree with, or if there's another disc you would add into this group, and I appreciate that feedback as well. Next, we're gonna move on to the Warbird from Lone Star Discs. Now listen, say what you want about Lone Star Discs and the way it's been run recently. I'm not here to give my opinion on that. I just really like this disc, and it's in my bag for a reason. I actually throw this very specific run, the Chandler Kramer Warbirds that came out. I've collected a bunch of them, but just the stock ones are great too. And the reason this disc surprised me so much is because at the time, I was looking for an overstable distance driver that was like that next level up from even your destroyers or your forces. Those were the distance drivers I was messing with at the time. And it's really kind of difficult to find. You know, you can sort through destroyers and forces and find ones like this, but these I found, I could just get my hands on them and they flew like I wanted right away, where I could lean into them on Anheuser and they would fight out on flex shots, but also not just fly nowhere, because like there's just like the end of a Juggernaut and some certain discs like that. A Nuke OS you could kind of throw into this category that just don't glide a ton. So yes, they're overstable, but there's a trade-off of the fact that they just dive. These actually still glide and go quite far, and they're super, super reliable. And I've had one in my bag for a while. I had one in my bag for probably a year or so that really got beat in and used a ton and still retained almost all of its overstability. It actually just got a little bit more push to it, which I found was awesome. In fact, until I lost it, I was going to just layer in another Warbird. That's how much I love this disc. It's another one that feels great in the hand and I think is super, super overlooked, because yeah, when I threw all the Lone Star discs, I thought a lot of them were just fine. So I think this disc could get overlooked if you've tried some of their plastic and just thought, yeah, it's okay, but I'll stick to my other stuff. But this disc genuinely stuck out to me as one that I wanted to keep around. And that's why I have literally traded, I've got like a bunch of these Warbirds, this exact run now, just because I love it so much. So I would totally give it a try if you're somebody who's also looking for an overstable distance driver that's, if you got like a higher arm speed and you're trying to have something super reliable, this is a great option. I've loved it. The next disc is on the complete other side of the spectrum from that one, and that is the Diamond from Latitude 64. This is a disc I actually wish I found as soon as I started playing disc golf. I actually found it much, much later, years down the line, and by then it was a different disc than what it would have been when I first started playing, but still incredibly underrated and very useful. The thing about the Diamond is it is one of the most understable drivers you will ever find. I think for the 8 speed they give it, there's nothing flippier. And so as a beginner starting disc golf, I wish I'd have known about this disc, because it'd be a phenomenal first driver option. I've seen a lot of beginner players with very little rotation and arm speed able to get great flights out of these, especially because they sell them in such light weights. However, I discovered this disc as a more advanced player, and the reason being is because you can shape them in so many different ways. A lot of guys don't think they would have any use for a disc this understable and beginner friendly as a more advanced player, but if you can just kind of swallow your ego a little bit and give a disc like this a try, you will find that there are so many fun ways to throw shots with it. One of the things I loved about the Diamond is I wasn't a great roller player, and a disc like the Diamond, you can throw hard and flat or even with a little bit of hyzer and it'll roll for you. It does all the work. I've also loved throwing shots of this where I need to get extreme hyzer flip to turn angles, or there's maybe times where I don't have a lot of space to make a throw, so I can barely get power on it. This is a shot that a lot of people don't consider. If you're scrambling in the woods and you find yourself in a restricted spot where your arm can't move a ton, you don't think you can get a lot of power on the disc. If you take something faster and flippier like a Diamond and just give it a little flick, you can get like a hyzer flip to flex flight out of it just because you're putting like 30% energy on it, and that's a really useful shot in the woods. You're going to get further than just trying to chuck out a putter. I think this disc is so much fun to throw. The more you keep it in the bag, the more you will find reasons to use it and uses for it. It's probably not for everybody, but if you've never tried just having something like this in your bag that's this understable, you got to give it a shot, because it is a lot of fun. We got another Discraft disc here. This, just like the Drone, is super overlooked just because of the way their lineup is, and that is the WASP. So the WASP is a funny one, because I think when this initially came out and back in the day, a lot of the old school Discraft pros did throw this disc. It's quite literally meant to be an overstable buzz. That's the idea. It's got a bead on it, giving you a little bit more overstability, but it fits in that same speed category, that speed 5 category, and it really does just that. A brand new Wasp will fly straight, have a nice dependable fade, but it still has glide to it. I mean, that was the goal. I don't quite understand why more pros don't throw this, and just discraft throwers in general. So many of them are looking for overstable buzzes. I can't tell you how many times I heard somebody walk into the store and be like, I'm looking for an overstable buzz. Like, it's right here. Now I understand if you don't like the beaded disc, then maybe try the drone. Maybe the drone's for you. This one does have a pretty noticeable bead. That's fine. But if you don't mind the bead, this disc is tremendous. And I've also found that if you're somebody who really likes the Rock from Innova, or the Rock 3, I should say, this is very comparable to that as well, and actually more consistent. I really like Rock 3s. I throw one still to this day, but sometimes they're hard to find a good run, a nice overstable run. The newer ones can be a little bit inconsistent. This disc is consistently overstable every time. I've thrown a number of stock ones, and I can lean into them on Annie, have them kind of pan and drop left. They're reliable, they're fantastic, and I think they're overlooked. And you don't need anything more than just this stock Z1. It really is great. Discraft doesn't even run them a ton, or as much as they did, just because they're not as popular anymore, but I don't get it personally because I think this disc rocks. All right, we got one more mid-range and then a putter to wrap it up. This mid-range here is another DGA mold. This is the Rift. This one I found, I think, just last year, and this disc is just insane. So this one here is the Katrina Allen Signature Edition, but you can just get them stock. And the Rift is what a lot of people wish the Buzz was. I know I keep mentioning the Buzz, but I feel like there's so many discs. People try to throw the Buzz to accomplish everything, so many discs are underrated because people cover them up by trying to throw other mid-ranges. So sorry, that just comes to mind. I'm not a Buzz hater. I like the Buzz. I've got like a good 25 to 30 of them on this shelf, but it's just easy for people to compare to. Please don't roast me. The DGA Rift, this disc right out of the box is a fast mid-range. It is a hyzer flip to flat disc that just goes and goes and goes. It has so much glide. My first impression of this disc throwing it was throwing it on a uphill hole that was further than I would normally throw a mid, and I threw this past the basket, and I was just so amazed by how easy it was to get it there. I haven't bagged it in a while just because my bag is, revolving door. I have so many discs to choose from at this point that, not all of these are still in my bag, but most of them are. But I would love to give it another shot because it is so much fun to throw. This is a disc that you don't have to put full power on and can get a ton of distance out of easily. You can throw turnovers with it right out of the box. There's a reason Katrina Allen likes it. She likes throwing those hyzer flips. And I can see why. The Rift is a great, great disc. Really, really accurate, and just a really well-made disc in general. It's also beadless, very comfortable in the hand, has good depth to it, just sits nicely. So yeah, check out the Rift. All right, and the final disc I wish I had discovered earlier is the Pure from Latitude 64. Now, I won't harp on a ton because a lot of you have probably thrown the Pure, but for me, this is a disc. I didn't dabble into a ton of Trilogy until later in my disc golfing career. So that's why some of the Trilogy that is more popular is maybe on this list for me. But the Pure, it is just such a great tool in the woods, in the open, wherever you want it. The great thing about it is you can get these premium ones. I've got like a glow opto, like moonshine one here, and this one, some kind of like color glow one. And these are actually like dead straight. You can pump on them, kind of maybe pop them up the flat, and they go really, really straight and handle a decent bit of torque. Then you get these baseline ones, you beat them in a little bit, and they turn into such a workhorse hyzer flip disc in the woods, or just an effortless upshot disc. They're beadless, they're very comfortable to throw, they glide without barely any speed and rotation. The Pure just rocks. I mean, I heard a lot of good things about the Pure when I got into disc golf. It just took me a long time to try it, and it's been very hard for me to go away from it during the last 5 or 6 years of playing disc golf because of how good and consistent it is as an understable putter in my bag. But like I said, even the premium ones are great. If you want a driving putter, you get these premium plastic ones. They are really useful for that too. But I've really liked having a baseline one that I just beat in a ton, get to be super, super flippy, and you can just work all kinds of different lines. So if you haven't gotten to the Pure, I know a lot of you have, you should give this one a try. All right, so those are all 10 discs. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Like I said, how to do kind of a mostly indoor video today just because I haven't been able to get out of the house. the whole baby thing. But next week we'll be back to more of the traditional content. But hopefully this is informational to you. Hopefully some of those molds you hadn't really thought about checking out before, and you will. You can check out all of these at foundationdisc.com. The link is in the description. Hopefully you'll give a few a toss. Each one of those molds, I can guarantee if it fits your game, you are going to love it. I've had a ton of fun throwing them over the past few years. Once again, I want to thank you for supporting this channel and supporting my content. I really missed making it, being away for 2 weeks, and I'm ready to be back making consistent videos for you. Comment down below if there's some videos you want to see me making now that I am back on the consistent track of making content each and every Monday. And other than that, I will see you next Monday with another video.